here raising old spots this year. Hi, babies. So scary. You're crazy.
Look at that.
Chose old spots. We had raised them before. We really liked them. Just their general demeanor, their meat flavor, their grow out speed. They're pretty chill. This is our first kind of ornery group that we've had. Too wild. Too crazy. Go wrestle each other. I'm Jessica with Evans Family Farm in Mount Ola, North Carolina. We're a pasture-based, regenerative livestock farm. We raise poultry, pork, lamb, beef, and eggs. Our mission here on the farm is to continue improving our soil every year and also to provide nutrient-dense food to our community. Today on our farm tour, I hope you get to see a little bit of how we raise all our animals, along with the why we raise our animals the way that we do. We love teaching people what we do here and why we do the things that we do so that people can learn more about agriculture and understand where their food comes from. This is Elsie Grace, so she's our third daughter. She's going to come along the tour with us today. So up here you'll see an example of our grazing animals. We run sheep and cattle together most of the time. So our sheep are our only breeding stock. We'll breed, let's see, about 45 ewes this year for lambing. We'll raise all those lambs primarily for meat. We will retain some of our ewe lambs to continue our flock. We also raise beef cattle, so that we raise them from steers. We don't cow-calf. Typically by steers or some older cows, and we run them all together except during lambing season because the little lambs are so small. We practice what we call management intensive grazing. So we create small paddocks with electric wire to kind of concentrate their grazing habits, kind of make them eat all the portions on their plate. They get the they'll pick their ice cream first, and then we kind of force them by putting them in a tighter spot to eat the other maybe less palatable but still nutrient dense grasses for them as well. So in here we raise hair sheep. So we have a Katahdin and Dorper cross. We did that for kind of size-wise and just for genetic variability as well. They're pretty easy keepers. We don't have a lot of parasite issues, especially with the way that we manage them in constant rotation. They lamb well. We had a good healthy crop last year. The steers this year we went with Red Angus. We got them from a farm that practices the same type of grazing, so they were familiar with paddock moves. They're familiar with kind of electric wire, which makes them easy to manage. Also, the red color should help them graze longer in the hotter weather. We have these guys probably for about another year that we harvested next late fall or winter. So up here we have our turkeys. This is our last half of our Thanksgiving turkey flock. We processed half of them this morning at freezer camp. The other half, so we have a little to grow another week to sell a few bigger turkeys, which some customers are looking for. Also, just because of our cold storage capacity, we can only harvest so many at a time. Turkeys are really large. So the turkeys are in one of our fields that we just acquired this last year. So when you saw the really thick lush grass in the field that the cows and sheep were in, that's what we hope to regenerate this plot to. So this is one of the fields that we acquired that's really been heavily farmed and hayed and sprayed with chemicals over the years. So we're using poultry as a big part of rehabilitating that land. So they're adding fertility. We put a seed mix in here that was palatable for poultry to eat because we knew we were going to concentrate all of our poultry in here this season. So all of our meat birds and our turkeys, we really concentrated on this kind of 5-acre field to hit it hard with some nitrogen to kind of get some of that fertility and biological activity going in the ground itself. So we will probably let this field just kind of rest and see what comes up out of the seed bed this winter. So these are turkeys. We do a broad-breasted white turkey, your standard kind of commercial breed turkey, but they stay hardy. They do well on pasture. It's a turkey size and shape that customers are used to seeing as well versus some of your heritage birds. They're a quick grow out. We use a locally grown non-GMO feed to supplement their diets along with pasture. Turkeys can get about 30% of their dietary needs from forage. So we rotate them using electric netting, depending on the size of the turkey, every week to every, like right now they're at 2 days because they're so large and they eat so much forage. These guys will hopefully dress in the like 13 to 15, plus pound range next week is what they're hoping.
And now when you say dress, tell the audience what that means.
So when I say dress, that means like a finished turkey versus their live weight now with all their feathers and all their insides that we don't consume, versus dressed is once we've, cleaned and processed that bird and it's ready for your dining room table.
So you got some very interesting infrastructure, and to kind of describe the infrastructure that you have and why that's been important for you guys, both on an economic level as well as a functional level.
Yeah, so everything we do, we try and have as multi-purpose as possible. So these feeders we can use for meat chickens, laying hens, or we can use them for turkeys. So anything that we can spread off multiple enterprises. Same thing with the netting, we can use for multiple species. These portable shelters that we use, the turkeys just 2 days ago decided to tear it to shreds. So luckily we have good weather for the next week and they don't need the extra coverage, which really they don't need a lot at this point. They're pretty hardy. They don't need, strong shelter. They've decided to climb on it and shred the cover so it looks a little shady. Normally there's a nice tarp over it to give them shade and to give them protection from rain. Right now in November, early November in North Carolina, weather is fantastic. They don't need a lot of shade. It's not too hot. We don't get cold rain yet, so most of them spend their time outside anyway. So we'll replace that before next year's flock comes through. Water and feed and grit is really the primary ingredients for our poultry. So we supplement with extra grit, more than what they can get in the ground. They really need that to get the maximum nutrition out of their feed.
Are there any poultry mistakes that you've made, not just with turkeys, but even with chickens, that you've learned from, in terms of being an amateur and becoming a pro? Because I will dare say that you are a pro at this point.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I've definitely learned the hard way in a lot of ways. Luckily, poultry is kind of a short-term ROI, meaning return on investment. They're short grow in comparison to other animals. We've experimented with lots of different structure styles as far as their shelters and chicken tractors, watering systems, feeding systems, that we've kind of learned the hard way what works, what doesn't work, what's too heavy, what's really prone to take off in a good breeze and chase down the field. We have been out there at 2 a.m. rescuing chickens from a heavy rain. Not our favorite thing to do. So again, those are things you kind of learn the hard way. As you get to know your land, you get to know your animals, and you get to know kind of your infrastructure that you're using. But we try and keep everything kind of lightweight, easy, economical. These hoop structures, there's a nicer one over here. You can see a completed one. That we'll walk by are actually like a corral shelter from a different company, and we kind of modify them with some chain link fencing material and chicken wire. So they're easy, they're portable, they're lightweight, and they're durable, being metal and being powder coated versus wood. They should last us a lot longer.
Talk about the feed. Like what kind of ration are you giving them, in both on the label term, whether it's organic, non-GMO, or conventional, and what are some feed ingredients?
Yeah, so this feed is a corn soy base, meaning kind of corn is the primary carbohydrate in there, soy is the primary protein in there. It is from a local non-GMO farm, so a grain mill. They grow all their own grain. They mill their own feed, and so right now they're on a standard broiler ration. So turkeys are a little particular and they need higher protein. When they're younger, we take that either their chick starter or their broiler ration, and we use fish meal to up the protein for them while they're growing. They need a higher protein like a game bird would versus a chicken. And then so we kind of use, there's a calculation to use for that, to how much fish meal to add to get the protein to the right level that they need. And then the older they get, the more you taper that off. So now they're at kind of your standard 16% poultry ration.
Gotta say thank you for saying that, because there are a lot of folks who are like, oh, fish meal. Yeah, I'll just feed it all the way through, and then you end up getting animals that taste
fishy. Yeah, that's the thing with fish meal. It's a great protein source. It's affordable. It's concentrated. It's a 60% protein, which is really high. But yeah, in your finishing ration, you really don't want fish meal because it will put an off flavor into the meat a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen.
When we can get it, we also supplement with free choice wheat when we can for our turkeys. They really like it, especially if they're getting grit. It adds a nice little kind of extra layer of fat in a lot of the turkeys. We just didn't have a good source for it this year.
So that's the contraction.
So this is an intact turkey shelter right here. Turkeys are kind of a little bit vicious in their herd mentality. So we have one turkey in here all by himself, although that seems really mean. The whole flock will pick out a weak link sometimes, and they will really attack it. He was really severely injured from the other ones attacking him, so we had to put him on his own, kind of for his own safety. We put him with our meat birds when we had meat birds. We just harvested the last of our meat birds last week, so he's all by himself. We tried to put him back, and they went for him again. They just know who's an outsider. So he's in here for his own safety.
Aww.
Poor buddy.
Well, I noticed that you have your poultry feeders hanging. Kind of talk about why that's important versus just laying them on the ground like most people would do.
Yeah, so these feeders in particular are just designed to hang. And with poultry, you really want their feed and water to be kind of at their back level. So we have them on a chain where we can raise and lower that. His needs to be brought up a little bit, but he was in there with meat birds earlier, corn crosses, so they had to be a little bit lower. It just helps them with their digestion and stuff to be able to eat at kind of that higher level. Yeah, so our pasture looks a little bit crazy, I'll be honest. We have a lot of native weeds and native grasses that kind of grew up through what we seeded. We put a thick blend in here. You'll see where we've run poultry before when we get over there. It kind of trampled down this native grass and let some of that stuff we put in the seed bed come up, which is fine with us. So if the poultry didn't eat it this year, the cattle and sheep will come through here and we'll kind of let them clean it out in the winter. We'll probably end up rolling out a lot of hay for the cattle and sheep in this pasture over winter as well, to kind of concentrate our efforts on one pasture at a time, adding that kind of fertility. So over here you can see this thicker bed of stuff that came up once we trampled the native grasses down. So this is chicory and clover and some vetch and just kind of a random, like a wildlife mix almost. It's really good for sheep. Cattle like it too, but poultry, it was low, so we can move the infrastructure through it without having to trample a bunch of stuff. And they really love picking through all of it.
Wow, it's gorgeous. You can have probably a human salad out of some of this.
Right. We get through here, it'll be a little bit smoother to walk over to one of our sets of pigs.
Whoop whoop, pig time!
Pig time! So we run our pigs through the woods. That's where pigs like to be. If you were to let a pig out, it would head for the woods. It gets shade, it gets nuts, it gets roots, it gets grubs. It's got natural shelter for protection. The only time we'll add a little additional shelter is winter when it gets real cold. We want to make sure they have a dry place to bed down. And those pigs will help us clear a lot of this out. So this was just kind of underbrush, unused woods in here. And we'll use them to impact that bottom layer, stir things up a little bit, get some of the bramble out of the way. And then eventually we'll be able to multi-purpose the wooded area, like for sheep and cattle to have windbreaks in winter and things like that. The sheep and cows both really love getting into the woods as well. So this right here is our training paddock. When we first get piglets dropped off, we want to make sure they're really trained to that hot wire, because that's what we use to control their movement in the woods. So we use just hog panels and T-posts and a wire. And then we put a hot wire on the inside so they learn that this is something that they don't want to touch or get near. And we light that wire up really, really hot. We want them to have a very negative first experience with hot wire. And we'll leave them in here for about a week or so, depending on the group of piglets and kind of their reaction to the wires. And then we can move them into portable netting systems like this group down here.
Oh, those are some old spots.
We are raising old spots this year. Hi, babies. So scary. You're crazy.
Look at that. Ooh, oh, all that feed on the ground. No.
It breaks your heart, right?
Oh, no. Oh, so much feed on the ground. Oh, geez.
I know. It looks like more than it is, but we've tried a variety of feeders. We kind of like to repurpose these industry standard feeders. They typically don't spill. It looks like a lot, but they've also been here for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. And with rain too, it doesn't necessarily get it protected from rain. So we'll scoop out some muddy feed, and that's what you see dried on the ground. They don't really eat the muddy stuff. So now they're in our portable netting. This group of pigs decided they did not respect netting. They wanted to let themselves out. They wanted to pull hoses out of the ground and make wallows for themselves all over the field. So we added hot wire back in there. An aluminum wire on the inside of the netting really reinforces that aluminum wire hits really hot, about 6,000 volts.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
They learned to respect it again and have not let themselves out yet of this new area. And this whole area is probably about a half acre. It goes all the way back to our back property line. Or not even property line, but creek line back there. And so we'll let them, since this is the only time this ground will get hit this year with pig impact, we're gonna let them hit it pretty hard. So we'll probably leave them here 2 to 3 weeks for a group of 16 pigs of this size to get a good stirring up of the soil before kind of winter stuff sets in. We'll really let them take a good advantage of it. They go through a fair amount of feed and water. We have kind of a float valve waterer that we're going to be putting back in here. It was in with some of our larger pigs before, so now we're moving it over. We've used, again, simple infrastructure here, so 55-gallon drum with the pig watering nipples on it. And put those at kind of a good height for multiple ages of pigs. We top that off every couple days, so they always have fresh water in there. But yeah, pretty simple. I mean, altogether, we have netting, we have a used feeder off of, Craigslist, and we have a 55-gallon drum. So, maybe a few $100s, in infrastructure to get started with these pigs.
Yeah, talk about the Talk about pricing for infrastructure when getting started with pigs. Because I see you do have some high tensile wire and permanent fencing, but getting started, what was beneficial for y'all?
Yeah, getting started, I would say bare minimum would be a good perimeter fence. So good perimeter, spend money on a good perimeter fence so that if they do get out of their smaller paddocks, they're not in your neighbor's cornfield, which will really make not good neighbors really quickly. But as far as their individual paddocks, bare minimum, really, especially as you're getting started. You're going to figure out what you like and what you don't like, style of feeders, style of waters, netting systems even. We use Premier Wood netting. We've been really happy with it. Other people have preferred brands, but it's trial and error a lot of times with what you like to do. And then, as that gets better, we invested in a really nice, bowler, the 80-gallon big pig waterer. That was a big investment for us to put that on a float valve so we don't have to, especially in summer, worry about filling water for pigs because they go through a lot. But now that we have multiple groups of pigs, we have to kind of divide and conquer who's using what at a certain time. But out here, they get to express their nature, so they get to root. They get to make little nice nest areas for themselves. All the way in the back where we had some stuff cleared for a fence line is where they've made a really nice evening bed down area. There's not a lot of trees. They just get to kind of hold up in the mud, which is really what they like. They get to live their best life out here. We got lots of persimmons. They get lots of acorns out there. What else do we have? We have hazelnuts. So they get a smorgasbord, especially in fall back in the woods.
So talk about what led you to raise GOS, Gloucestershire Old Spots.
Really
and how many do you got for this herd for this year?
Yeah, so this group is 16. We raised a previous group earlier in the year of 16, and then we have a large group of 8. That's kind of our pig capacity for this year. It was probably mid-year when we acquired this extra land, so we had to kind of wait till we kind of added our pigs. We chose Old Spots. We had raised them before. We really liked them. Just their general demeanor, their meat flavor, their grow-out speed. They're pretty chill. This is our first kind of ornery group that we've had that we're testing our fences. Our large group have never even touched a wire before. So it just depends on the personality of the group. Sometimes it can be one or two little ornery ones in there that lead the group astray. But those are the reasons we like them. We found a really good source for them. So we don't farrow here on farm, meaning we don't breed our own piglets. We buy them as, just weaned piglets, and we kind of train them and raise them up to kind of their meat size, which for us a goal weight is about 250 to 350. That seems like a really big window, but if you're a small farm, that processing dates are a little bit of a gamble.
Amen.
So you kind of have to guess their weight before they're even born. And then you try and figure out when to get them processed. So we have to have that little flexibility. And so that just determines for us, if they're smaller, we get different cuts than if they're larger, for example, when it comes to our cut sheets and things that we have in inventory.
So how long would it take, at least for these GOS pigs, to grow out to 300, 320 pounds?
I would say probably the 8 to 9 month mark would be the goal to get over the 300 hump. But the group we took in last time, they were finished and they were really fleshy. We thought they were going to be a little bit bigger than they were, but they were in that 320 mark and they looked great. We took some earlier that were maybe in the 275-ish range. Again, because it's just when we got dates, and they still finished really well. They just weren't quite as big as the other ones. So again, we've been happy with the meat quality. We've gotten great reviews from customers on flavor and tenderness when it comes to this breed of pork.
One thing I like just looking at your pigs is there's some good looking pigs. I mean, most of them have really good conformation. That would be well for meat production. Who's your breeder? Where's your source, if you don't mind me asking?
Not at all. So we get our Gloucestershire Old Spots from Raising Roots Farms out of Hickory. So he is actually kind of...
You mean Hickory. Hickory.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say it right. Hickory. I got a little more country in there. But Brandon Berry over there, he is kind of specialized in the Old Spot. So people come to him kind of from all over the country. They're not a super popular breed in the United States yet. He's really trying to kind of influence that. But he farrows pigs there, and he sells, like for us, feeder groups for himself, or he grows them out as well. So not far. We've done the find cheap animals on Craigslist before. You get what you pay for
Amen.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it is definitely worth paying for a quality piglet. They're super healthy. We've never had health issues. We've never had any lameness. We've never, really had any issues. And again, you get what you pay for when it comes to that. So And it's supporting another farmer that does what we do. And, you know, we don't support each other, we're in trouble. So.
When you were looking for a good breeder to get quality feeder pigs, what kind of conversation did you have? What made you say, you know what, I think this person is doing a really good job, both in the, not just the pigs, but even in the personality of that breeder as well, as you're working with them?
Yeah, it's really talking with somebody and kind of getting to know them. You know, asking questions, what do they do, how many they raise, how long have they been raising it, what kind of things do they breed for? Not every breeder's purpose is the same. You know, somebody that breeds show pigs is looking for completely different things than somebody who farms for meat. So asking those questions, then putting boots on the ground. So I wouldn't buy anything from a farm I haven't stepped on. And I've been there and I've seen what he does. I've seen how he manages the animals. I actually found him kind of randomly. He happens to be a dealer for a certain type of pig structure that we were looking at. And so that's how we started that conversation. He said, hey, by the way, if you need feeder pigs, I have extra. And I said, let me come check them out. So here we are. This is our third, so this is our third batch of old spots this year. And we've been really happy with them. We'll use them definitely again next year.
Wow. You're a happy customer?
I am a happy customer.
Good.
Happy pigs.
I love how with a lot of pig farmers today, they're all looking for someone who they can find good quality feeder pigs from. And you see a lot of dishonesty in the pastured pork world with people who are saying, oh yeah, I got this heritage breed and it's purebred. Oh yeah, totally purebred. And for the untrained eye, it seems like a heritage breed, purebred. But for someone like me and probably someone like you, you can tell that there's a distinct difference in what is purebred, what's not purebred, what is quality, what's not quality. Talk about, like, to some of the new and beginning pig farmers out there that they're just ignorant, they don't know, and it's not completely their fault. What would be some words of advice for them?
I would say talk to other farmers. So, I mean, a lot of what we've learned from other people doing what we do, who've been doing it longer, asking questions. I mean, some lessons you learn the hard way, and sometimes starting out, you're getting a couple pigs just for yourself and feeling pigs out. It probably doesn't matter as much as when you're going to be raising a product that you're selling and branding, you know, is slightly different. So there's a time and a place for, you know, kind of getting what we call an HOGS breed, you know, anything, whatever mixed breed you can find. We've done a lot of that before. But once you start kind of building that up and getting your, you know, you kind of know what you're looking for in the body shape of the pig and how the pig walks. Even the size of the sows and the boars when you see somebody's breeding stock as well. Will give you an idea of growth rates and kind of finish rates on your pig. But a lot of it's, again, talking to somebody else because, for example, with cattle, I'm an untrained eye. I couldn't go to a cattle auction and probably pick out a good cow, you know. It's just not my expertise yet. As we walk down to the bigger herd of pigs, you can even kind of look upfield. This is where we ran our chicken tractors this season, so our meat bird little shelters. You can see how much that nitrogen has done for this field as far as greening it up. Stuff that we seeded, and then even this ryegrass coming up is just from the seed bed, so we kind of left it up to chance to see what would come out. A little bit of fertility, a little bit of disturbing the soil, and now we're getting a lot of green back here that we can hopefully use for our grazing livestock in the winter. We got lots of acorns down here, lots of stuff falling in the forest for the pigs.
You've had this particular part of the property for how long?
Less than a year. So we closed on it about mid-year 2021. Thanks. I want to say early 2021, maybe March-ish is when we closed on this property. So it was quite a process, but we got it done.
And even with like the small amount of input that you've had on it, it's starting to really show. Yeah,
I love that part too. So we even since this property adjoins our property and we know the landowner, so before we even purchased it, we drove around and pulled soil samples. So we'll do that again this year.
Oh, you're such nerds.
I know. I even put it in my own spreadsheet so that I could compare year-to-year data.
Wow.
Because, I mean, as nerdy as it sounds, it's also like you can think and look and see, you know, what you see with your senses about what you're doing and if it's having a good impact. But to have the science behind it, too, to actually have the data that shows, you know, you're having a positive impact. Or if we're not. So if we're still missing, you know, an important nutrient in our soil, then we figure out how we can add that in over the years, too. But yeah, this ryegrass kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, oh, cool, there's rye in this field. Sweet. Now I don't have to seed this one like I'm gonna go seed my others. Nature surprises.
Yeah, you get a lot of good ones, and sometimes we have to remember that when the bad ones come up.
Yeah, that's another thing. So this property, you know, overall the property has been farmed for over 100 years.
Wow.
In various types of ways. So there's been dairy farms, there's been pig farms, there's been, you know, and a lot of it we're discovering from an era where if you just wanted to get rid of something, you threw it in the woods. So as we run pigs through there, they've discovered things that unfortunately we don't like to see either, which is a lot of, you know, debris piles, old rusted metal, you know, trash in gullies. It used to be, you know, why need a landfill when I could just go throw my trash in the ditch? So stuff that we will have to clean up, you know, as the years go by to keep the land healthy. So some not so fun discoveries sometimes.
Okay, I'm assuming those are the pigs up ahead.
Yep, they're probably in the back 40, which we can walk back there too. If you don't mind going for a walk.
Oh, totally not, especially through the woods.
I know, it's my favorite. So this group is about ready to move to, they've probably been here probably 3 weeks. They're a smaller group, it's only 8 pigs, so even though they're larger, it's about the same impact that, you know, double the size of smaller pigs would have. Hi, babies! I don't want to scare you.
Woo.
Hi, big piggies. Hi, babes! So it's a little bit clearer by this back fence line. They like to hang out, kind of capture a little bit of sunlight when they can, especially when the weather's cooler. These guys are probably 3 weeks away from harvest. Going and making their move to freezer camp. So same breed, same breeder, same kind of genetic lines.
They're like, we're good.
Whatever.
They're chilling.
It's
That's
cool.
okay, I can come see them.
Good.
Well, looks like I'm being greeted.
Who's your big pigs? Who's my big pigs? Who's your good big pigs? Oh yes, you're too wild. Too wild. Too crazy. Go wrestle each other. Don't eat my boot. Booger. Don't eat my boots. Yeah, do the back scratch. You like the back scratch. Hey, babies. Good bite. Good bite. Oh, so scary. So scary.
Can we go in and see?
The gate's on the other side.
Oh, really?
Thirsty piggies. Squeaking on the pig number. The cows are kind of like the mean girls, though. They're like, yeah, you can't eat with us.
As they chew their cud.
She's posing for you.
She wouldn't be a sheep
Drop us some
video if
fertilizer.
there wasn't any moments where they're just peeing. You're at the
Butt scratches.
Evans Family Farm pig spa.